Hello, everyone. My name is Moshe Nave from the SAP community team. Welcome to today's SAP community call about workflow and the SAP strategy for the intelligent enterprise. And I'll hand it over to Ceci, who will kick off the call.
Hi, thanks, Moshe. And hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this morning. If you've been following along the past couple of months, we've held various different community calls on different SAP Business Technology Platform capabilities that can help you in your digital transformation journey. And we've been focusing a little more on the Rise with SAP connection, as that is our latest business transformation as a service offering that will help our customers move to the cloud. So in the previous sessions, we've covered things like the custom code migration app. We've covered how to leverage the SAP Activate methodology. We've talked about the SAP integration suite and also the migration to the cloud. And we've also taken a deeper look into process discovery and SAP process insights just recently. Today, I have Thomas Folbering with me. He is the head of product management and solution engineering for SAP Workflow Management. And we're going to be taking a deeper look into this whole process trend and what workflow means in SAP's strategy overall. Now, remember that at the end of the session, we're going to have a live Q&A. So please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A tool so that Thomas and I can answer them at the end. And remember, this session will be recorded and we'll be posting a wrap-up blog post on the SAP community in the next couple of days. So remember to follow the SAP Business Technology Platform tag so you can get all the latest updates and notifications on the new blog posts that we submit. All right. So with that, I'd like to say hi to Thomas. Hi, Thomas. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Cecilia. Hello.
So it's great to have you here, and let's just kick it off with the overarching question. So can you share a little bit about what workflow means in SAP strategy, and also specifically in the context of Rise with SAP?
Yeah, thank you, Cecilia. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it already that Rise with SAP is largely about providing products and services for business transformation. And if you take a look at why is workflow and by and large process automation important in the SAP strategy, it's exactly that point that customers, organizations are currently transforming their core processes, and they figure out that actually workflows and process automations are key and are essential for extensibility and customization of end-to-end processes. And I mean, I'm working on the topic of workflow for more than 18 years at SAP, and I'm extremely happy about this kind of trend also, that people perceive workflow as it's not a tool just for leave requests, right? SAP's value proposition also with Rise with SAP is to deliver first, right, to deliver extensible workflows within our applications, providing a citizen developer friendly and business expert friendly user experience, and of course also allow for end-to-end business transformation that you come from process insights to end customer experience as well with Qualtrics experience management solutions, so process insights and customer insights to process improvement with workflow and RPA and other kind of automation technology. So and in order to actually facilitate this, we do not only want to offer technology with the Business Technology Platform, but also content as pre-built content for a specific line of business cases and industry solutions. And I think, when I said workflow is not only about leave requests, right? It's of course also for leave requests, fantastic, but I like to use this kind of visualization that many customers tell us at SAP, hey, I mean, you talk about, workflows and process automation, but we standardized already our business, our end-to-end processes with the SAP business applications. And that's true, right? I mean, 80% of the end-to-end business process runs in applications, in standard business process applications for lead to cash, recruit to retire, design to operate, source to pay. And then there are these kind of non-standard workflows. And I have, these are all customer projects that we have done. And, these kind of processes, if, although they only, are a fraction of the end-to-end business process, like 20% or some number like that, if you don't handle them well, or you handle them with multiple platforms and you say, some of them are just departmental, and then you add even the, thousands of personal productivity, processes that customers are building or, employees are building, then these non-standard processes might easily add up to 80% of the process cost that you have. So not managing them well and not understanding actually workflows is very costly. And, having said that, and I talked about also the embedded workflows that SAP delivers, we do that for a very long time. Actually, when I started at SAP in 1999, R3 was already there with an embedded workflow management system called Business Workflow. And we were delivering, workflow templates within R3. And also our workflow was used by our own applications, like materials management and finance and HR. And we shipped actually workflows as part of the application, as an embedded application workflow. So this is where we are traditionally really good, right? Now in actually the new world with S4HANA and S4HANA Cloud, we do the same. And we also extend these kind of embedded application workflows to the industry solutions, like the industry cloud and, for instance, utilities and other industries. And then there are the, extension workflows where SAP ships actually, out of, in the standard, a one-step approval workflow within the application, and the customer actually has the need to configure variants of that approval, that you have multi-step approvals. For instance, which happens a lot of time, if you want to manage a credit block in, credit blocks in sales orders, for instance, in S4HANA. So these are extension workflows that usually every customer does on their own, and they do it again and again, right? And they do it if they have variations in different line of businesses or in different kind of countries, because of compliance reasons and regulations. And this is something that we also need to take into account to ship this, for instance, as content. I'll come back later to that point, of course. And then there is this kind of huge opportunity that we have, that we take a look at actually, the workflows also as cross-LOB workflows used for application, not only for application extension, but also for application or business process composition. So running a workflow across multiple applications, right? For instance, in a lead to order workflow. We've done this recently with IBM together, and IBM has shipped like 5 content packages on cross-LOB workflows. And one of them is actually handling the lead to order workflow across the lead creation, the opportunity conversion, the sales quotation in S4, in SAP CPQ, configure price quote. And then, at the end, a new order is created in S4HANA Sales. So you see a workflow that runs actually and orchestrates a process with user interactions across multiple applications. So that's basically the appliance actually of workflow nowadays. And I mean, we offer now for quite some time, SAP workflow management, combining the power of workflow both for expert users, professional developers, but also business experts and citizen developers in a no-code environment, decision support, so with business rules, out-of-the-box plug-and-play process visibility dashboards that are configuration and not, and not development, UI development or something like that for a dashboard, an inbox. And we have recently, a couple of days ago, added also a new capability that's called workflow intelligence, which basically uses machine learning or AI business services from our own platform, like, for instance, data attribute recommendation, document information extraction, to provide recommendations on workflows, so that you get confidence levels and explanations about these confidence levels if you want to improve something. That might not be super interesting for leave requests, right? But it is for, I always come back to the leave request. Because basically for leave requests, if someone in my team wants to take a vacation, I always approve, right? I have never ever in 20 years rejected a leave request. So actually I want to have an auto approval there. But when it comes to actually stuff like, a sales order, a financial document that needs to be approved, something that has really a high impact in the business process. And, you sometimes have to ask people, should I approve this as an approver? And if you get actually the workflow intelligence that's smart, that it makes you a recommendation and say, you have a confidence level of 84%, which is pretty high based on historic data, then you get, of course, a super well-defined decision support. And that's what we add here. And of course, we tightly integrate this with, intelligent technology like intelligent RPA, so that you can take a look at a process from both sides of the world. So the automation of mundane tasks with the structured workflow execution and in one go. I think that's summarizes it, the role actually of workflow in the SAP strategy for the intelligent enterprise. Has to do a lot with how do you basically understand the application and the business processes that you extend, that you run across the applications, but also adding this notion of intelligence into your workflow for the intelligent enterprise.
Right, perfect. So a couple of things I just kind of want to highlight that I found super interesting. So I think where BTP really supports the digital transformation, or really supports the move to the cloud, is of course in all these extra specifications or extra extensions that a customer may need that don't apply to the standard. I mean, like you said, there are 80% of business processes that are covered by SAP standard solutions, and customers can implement those and they will work out of the box. But of course, there are certain characteristics or specifications or differentiators that customers need to implement, and that's where BTP with the workflow management capabilities can really support to make it sustainable, like you said, and also to make sure that your costs don't go through the roof because you implemented something that is sustainable and that is not just a one-off for each of the requirements that you need.
Right.
And when we look at it like that, really kind of the digital workflows are the backbone of business processes, because like you said, it's not just about a leave request. Everything needs to go through, or everything should go through a workflow in order for you to have visibility into how your business processes are running and have that transparency, and also be able to make improvements, maybe based on recommendations by our AI, but also based on just the people that you have that are the process experts that are looking into that information and able to make kind of their own decisions as well.
Right.
Great. Okay, so maybe let's take a little bit more of a look into the role of content, of business content. We know that that's a differentiator that we have in SAP, especially on BTP. So can you maybe share a little bit about what the role of content is and how it really helps accelerate those workflow projects or process automation projects?
Yeah, of course. I think when we talk about what we believe, what is the SAP differentiator there, we need to be very, very clear. Every technology, if they are serious actually in the industry, does not only ship tools, but also content, right? And you also see that in other kind of industries than business applications and software. So when it comes to content, what we try to apply are actually lessons that we have learned together with customers, over the course of 20 years or so. And this is a very busy slide, but don't get shocked by it. I think what learning is what I said, is that in, and personally, me with my team, in probably hundreds of projects that we have seen and that we have actually, been working with customers, we learned that the hard part, if you take a look at processes, basically process management, including workflows, but also other tools, the hard part is not, the tool itself, to master it and to say, okay, I need to understand that there are events that trigger a workflow. Then you have a form that you need to build. That form needs to have actually access to data coming from business applications. You then have, collect data from business people or from colleagues in your department. So that's, a data collection step, again, a form. Then you have decision automation. Like I said, I want to have an auto approval for a shopping cart from my employees that is below €1,000 and not just 200, right? Then there are compliance rules in the company that does not allow me as a manager to, for my department, say, the auto approval role, €20,000 sounds good, right? I mean, auto approval, everything. So I wouldn't be able to do that because SAP has very clear and strict compliance rules. And I also cannot order something from my wife's business, right? So there needs to be rules that are enforced, silently in the process, so that, fraud is detected, but that also enables actually line of business experts to change these rules based on their kind of, pockets of flexibility, as we say in workflow. So, and then you have notifications, and then, some of the tasks you figure out, well, there's always a colleague who sits there and has to fill the same form again and again and again in the office. I remember before I came to SAP, I worked for a company in Mannheim, and we had this kind of pink forms, paper forms. They were pink, and they were the Banfen, so the purchase requisitions. So whenever I wanted to have something, do you remember that as well? So it was pink and a gray kind of, font on there, so you could hardly read it. So yeah. The company wanted to prevent you from ordering something. So you had to fill in this pink form, and then you went to the office, and the admin was sitting there, and she had like a staple of, I don't know, 50 of these forms, and she had to type them into the system. So nowadays, you don't need that. That doesn't mean that you don't need that person any longer, but, she can do something that is much more valuable maybe for the company than, typing in, the content of pink paper forms into a system. So the RPA bot, right? Include that in a workflow, distribute data. So the hard part is not to understand how you build a workflow. The hard part is actually, how do you integrate with your business applications? Because, this is, it is a grown kind of landscape that all customers have. All customers have a grown landscape with, hybrid, SAP, non-SAP. They have, a lot of systems on premise, and they will keep these systems on premise. And they now want to move to the cloud. Now, you take a look at these systems, and some of these systems are very clearly defined in the sense of they have a, data dictionary, they have a business object repository. Every business object has events, methods, and actually extension points. And then you take a look at S4 and you figure out, oh, it's the same. It's a little bit, improved even, right? So, and then you have other systems that came from acquisitions to SAP, and, they're offering APIs, fantastic. They offer also the notion of a business event, fantastic, right? Some of these systems already use embedded workflow management. So you can easily extend, from the system that you have today into the cloud. And some of these systems use, like, the R3, old business workflow technology in ABAP. And guess what? You can also extend this natively, in the on-premise application to the cloud. If you want to build now, with RISE with SAP more and more also in the cloud with S/4HANA, you can extend from your on-premise workflow, keep it running, but extend it in the cloud. Fantastic. So that, it's all about semantic access to business data and services. Yeah, that's the gist of what I wanted to say. The hard part is not the tool. The hard part is to figure out how do you access actually business objects, data and services in the applications. And you have different kind of means and technologies, and there's actually a huge evolution from SAP that we focus on providing, events and one domain model, right, in the API Business Hub next to integration flows, so that it's pretty easy for you. And still, you then need to basically think about, the data model is great, but I want to extend it, and I want actually to have my own vocabulary definitions for the business rules, something like this. And what we figured out with content is if we package, for the most wanted kind of business workflows, and I'm not referring to the old ABAP-based business workflow here, but to the workflows that customers say, this is what we do, what we need. It's like bread and butter, what we expect from SAP, that you ship this, and we can just configure it. We said, hey, that would be a great idea. We bring all of this knowledge, and then you don't have to do a huge integration project, so that you just have to handle the orders, the sales order approvals in a 3-step approach or something like that. So the package for a business process that we call live process is the user interface or the form, the workflow definitions as workflow components, so reusable artifacts that you as a customer then can configure in process variants. We add business rules to it, we add the data model to it, we add bots to it, and we pre-configure even a visibility dashboard for you. So that the experience, and you will see it in my demo in a couple of minutes, that the experience is simple, right? This is very hard. It's complicated work, right? And the more and more we invest, of course, into things like the one domain model going forward, it will be much easier for you to build this on your own, right? But this should be simple in the sense of the consumption experience, so that you can go and discover in the public domain SAP API Business Hub, you discover, not only integrations, events, and the one domain model, but you can discover also our workflow content. And you can easily add this to your workspace if you have an account in BTP and you have a workflow management account and a subscription and account. Then you can easily add this from the API Business Hub to your workspace, and then you configure this. You configure the process variants that we ship, and each step in there is underneath deployed or underneath delivered as a workflow component that you can reuse. You can configure the business rules. You can configure the dashboard if you want to have it in any other way that we kind of ship it. You can take a look at the start and the task UIs of the workflow that we ship as SAP UI5 or as simple forms, and then you activate it and run it, right? So that's the benefit of content. And we have started, 2 years ago to build this content with customers. So everything that we do there is completely outside in. So though I say, hey, some folks like me are working on this for 18 years, of course, I would say that 50% of the content that when customers come and say, this is the problem that we have, I know this already. It's not new to me, right? But we listen to the customer and say, what do you want to have actually? And we started with capital expenditure with 2 customers. And then we brought capital expenditure as a package, into the API Business Hub, and we got a lot of feedback from customers that said, can you not add projects, right? How do you manage projects after the capital expenditure has been approved? Or can you not, start maybe with an investment request and not with the capital expenditure? So we're extending these scenarios, but we're also building new ones, so that actually at the end of the day, the packages focusing on RISE with SAP, specifically also on S/4HANA in this respect, you can start actually with sales order approvals, and then you figure out, but the sales order is not isolated. You have sales quotations, you have credit memo requests, you have credit blocks on sales orders. So then you can use these packages then and activate them individually, right? And grow to in this respect like a solution approach, right? Yeah, that's basically it. But maybe the last word that I want to have on this content is that it's also super exciting to see the relevance that it has in the overall business process intelligence story, right, for you as a customer, from process insights and customer experience. So, I said that it's not only process insights, it's also, of course, the sentiments that you get from your customers about your process. So if you want to use Qualtrics, we encourage you to do that, because you get a lot of valuable insights into how your customers feel about, the processes that they deal with you in. And you have, of course, the SAP Signavio solutions and process insights. And I think in this call series, the last time you had this kind of call, you took a look at process insights. What you see there is that you basically understand a process much better in the sense of what are the bottlenecks, what are the reasons for the bottlenecks, what are the insights that you have in your process, and then you can derive actually improvement recommendations out of that. And part of these improvement recommendations are actually, of course, workflows, process automations, application extensions. And then you can build with our content packages, actually, the link to the process insight, and then bring actually the improvement back into process insight and say, how has the process now improved as I've been handling actually the sales order approvals and the credit memo checks and so on with the structured workflow and with some bot automations, right? Yeah, that's the story. But I want to show you, because I think we have the time, I want to show you this live and in action. Let me start with process insights, as you probably are already familiar with it or not. I don't know. You basically get insights into your end-to-end processes. You can take a look at it from a line of business perspective, like for instance here in procurement, and you see, like for instance, correction recommendations. Yeah, that it says, hey, you have a problem in procurement, deletion of old records, and then you get actually also a recommendation of how you in your system actually can close that gap, right? That's one way that you can basically take a look at improvement recommendations. Like, you don't need a workflow for that. Not every process needs a workflow, right? Not every improvement needs a bot. But you can take a look at, or the system, the process insight system figures out, well, the problem that you have, you can easily fix that with a change in your customization. That's it, right? But now let's come to, for instance, here sales, and I mentioned that. Here, what you see here in the process performance is that you have problems here that you basically have. Or let me go and show you something that's more interesting. Sales order, purchase order to sales. Here. Okay, here you see, okay, there is a delay, right? The average is 480 days. So, and then you get already, an understanding about most frequent blockers, like for instance, sales order items are rejected, and you can click on that and you can take a look and on the instances of this. And if I go back now, what you see is that I can get innovation recommendations. And these innovation recommendations relate to the applications in S4, but also to intelligent technologies, and intelligent technologies like RPA and workflow. And you see here that we actually map our content that we ship for you as a customer. We map this here in a recommendation to the process problem that you have. I think that's fantastic. That's a great story. Now you click on this, and you can explore actually, the artifacts that we ship here. And if you log in even, right, you can basically say, oh, this is great. This is, I highlight it as a favorite. And then you can read all the, this is this version. You see the end user guide, setup guide, configuration guides, and so on. You can take a look at actually the artifacts, and we keep it pretty simple here. We don't talk about, a BPMN based process underneath and the workflow, whatever, whatnot. But, how can you improve simply with process steps actually your end-to-end process to manage sales orders. That's of course not all. You can of course also go there and say, let me explore workflow management, and you see that we have shipped already around, let me do that again. Now here we are. That we have shipped already around 50 content packages here. And we plan to actually in Q1 that we have around 100, because we're working with a lot of partners on this and so on and so forth. So now what I mentioned here, what you can do is, if you are, for instance, in this kind of in this environment in SAP API Business Hub, you can and you have actually a subscription of workflow management. You can easily configure your tenant here, your workspace, and then add to your workspace this content package, right? Boom. And then you can view the consumption experience, but what happens next is that you then go into your sales. Yeah, I want to go, sorry. So this has been added then to your process flexibility cockpit, to your workspace, the managed sales order, right, directly. And let me go here and show you, this is like, I have imported just 14 packages. There are, more than 50 available. And if you just click this, simply click this link, add to your workspace, the whole content will be pushed actually into your tenant, and then you can directly start configuring. Like I said before, the process variants you can have a look at, and I've done that before. So usually we have like a default variant, and then you can create your own process variant here. I'm not doing it again. And it picks actually the default variant process steps in there that we ship. And you can basically then say, oh, I want to have something really crazy, like whatever, 4 parallel approvals, and then multiple more, right? And I think that the beauty of this is that you can simply configure actually the process here without actually really having to deal with the implementation underneath, because it also all comes out of the box. What also comes out of the box is the data model. So here we are extending actually the S4 system in the cloud or on-premise. Doesn't matter for this case here, it's both the same. And we're shipping actually the data model and the vocabulary definition for the rules and for the conditional start of this workflow. So you can say, okay, out of the box, this is like, if the net amount is $500, then this variant shall be triggered. And then you can say sales manager approval only needs to happen if a specific condition is met, right? Whatever, if the sold to party is 1,000 or something like that, right? So, and then basically you activate this thing and then it runs, right? There is not, you don't have to deal with a lot of, complexity there. The same is true for decisions. So for instance, we ship out of the box the approval determination strategy for the workflow, but also stuff like business validation for the sales order. Like for instance, you say in a lot of scenarios, or specifically for sales orders, customers send orders via email, right? With spreadsheets, something like that. And then, you can actually use an RPA bot to extract the data from the spreadsheet, move it into the workflow. The workflow validates automatically the sales order that comes in from the spreadsheet. And it does not only some sanity checks, are these fields filled out, but, you can build something that is like, taking a look at this from the perspective of a business person, really. I mean, is this, sorry, I've been clicking on the wrong icon while I was talking. So we're shipping a decision table, and you can extend that decision table and say, okay, 0 order value is not allowed, or this specific kind of sales organization only handles amounts or does not allow the amount in sales orders from customers beyond, €100,000 or something like that, you know. So you can really build in business logic in there and extend what we ship already. Now then the next thing is the process visibility dashboard that I mentioned. So how, you know, you get practically here a dashboard like this, you know, out of the box. You don't need to do anything. You just go there and and hit the activate button, or you configure it to your needs. And what that means is that next to the template that we deliver, you can add a Qualtrics survey. You can add a business workflow running still on premise, right, in a legacy system, or you know, you can add another workflow. You can add events from S4 that happened before, in between the workflow, after the workflow. And then, you know, these events are pre-populated or populating actually here this table with the context data. And if you have more than one process participant in the visibility dashboard, you just need to tell the system, okay, you know, this is the source, this is the target context. In one system, it's called sales order. Then you have here the sales order ID. It's pretty easy. You get out of the box actually, you know, the configuration of the status. When does, you know, a process turn into critical threshold configurations? You can, you know, define actions. What happens if something goes wrong in the workflow? An admin is informed, a navigation into a system, and also, you know, how does the dashboard look like? Yeah, that's it, right? Configure, activate, done. So, yeah. That's kind of the content configuration here.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, I think this example really shows how, so why do we call it Business Technology Platform? Because we're really trying to bridge the gap between IT and the business. And with these live content packages or live process content packages, we can really bring those two worlds together. We're taking the information that we learn from customers, like you said. We know what they're looking for. They give us feedback. They say, okay, this is missing, or we need that. We would like to add that. We take our own experience, because we're also, you know, a company. We also have an understanding of how things works. We create these kind of default prepackaged processes that you can implement directly, or you can modify them to your specific needs, but really in a way that it's not, you know, coding with ones and zeros. It's really looking at the business process in a way that a business owner or a process owner can really understand it, and also be able to modify it, or, you know, work together with the IT department to actually deploy it in the end.
Yeah. And then, I mean, just also the final steps is, if you then bring this all into one Fiori Launchpad, or like what we did here for the demo, we brought all of this content, the inbox, you know, the workflow variants, you know, the dashboard information on process performance indicators, the sentiment analysis data from Qualtrics that, you know, I had configured there. Bring this all into one work zone. This is one SAP work zone, and then you have direct access actually to your, you know, to your kind of information about the sales order process, right? I mean, this is just for demo purposes. It could also look differently, but I think the important point is that then if you go and run the workflow, right, for sales orders, it's pretty impressive from my point of view. And I mean, I'm looking back at where we are coming from with SAP, that, you know, the UI of the user interface of the workflow, all of this data is coming from S4, right? The data structure. And you have actually things like embedded intelligence. But this confidence level here is just a small thing in the beginning. But you see that this is coming from a simple configuration of the workflow intelligence on the workflow instances, a three-step thing. I'm not going into the very detail here. At TechEd, we show this in detail, but it's, you know, it brings actually everything together: the business application data, the workflow, you know, that steers the process, the machine learning, and the stuff that you can actually have as pre-built content available, right? Yeah.
Right. And these insights are in a readable format, because of course this information was always available. It's just a matter of extracting it and making it understandable and readable, so that you don't have to spend hours looking into it, you know, what's wrong. But yeah, I find the work zone, so having your kind of this configurable dashboard with all the relevant information is an accelerator also for the people that are working with that every day, right? So again, from IT, what we need to do is try to make it easier for the business to run. And how we do that is, of course, adding these accelerators and visibility and transparency into everything. Very interesting. That was a great demo. So thank you for sharing that. And just to emphasize, like you mentioned, this is available today. So if you go into the API Business Hub, you can look at all these process content packages. You can import them or add them to your workspace. You have that on available on BTP, as long as, of course, you have workflow management in BTP. But let's take maybe a little bit a look at the future, or maybe you can share what's coming next in the roadmap. So what's planned for workflow management?
Yeah, thank you, Cecilia. I will do that gladly. I mean, one I think, path ahead you have seen already here in this picture. We are working very closely with the colleagues from Process Insights and Signavio on integrating actually also tool-wise, from the modeling of a process to the process insights and to process mining, that you get recommendations not only on existing content, but also if the content does not exist, how you as a customer can then with the tool build it in an easy fashion, right? That is a focus topic. And in order to get there, actually, I want to highlight a couple of things here. So, you could say that low code, no code is a trend, but I believe it's not a, it's not a trend any longer. It's basically, a work style that is already reality in many customers. Many customers try to basically move ahead with using only low code, no code, or a lot of low code, no code experiences in their company. And I would say, if I take a look at this, of course, from an SAP perspective, but also, as a consultant to our customers, right? I say, you have to be careful that you do not over platform. So suddenly you see low code platforms popping up everywhere. That there is again the risk of something that we used to call shadow IT. Shadow IT in the format that we say, but this is only for personal productivity. Very soon, things that are built for personal productivity as a flow turn into a departmental best practice, should turn into the LOB best practice, and can turn into an enterprise grade kind of application, right? And if you only focus on islands of automation with low code, no code tools, if you only focus on islands on improvement in the digital experience, and islands of application composition with different kind of platforms, you will never ever get all of these over platforming together again, right? It's very hard. So we believe that SAP needs to basically take a look at this, and we do this for quite some time now. We have actually a strategy in place for the digital experience, which brings together Workzone, Launchpad Service, Mobile Start in one digital experience. And we have recently also launched SAP AppGyver, which comes from the acquisition of a company called AppGyver, which is now integrated into our application composition and automation capabilities here. We have renovated the business application studio so that it's a true kind of low code, no code environment. And yes, it has an heritage of an IDE, of an integrated development environment. You see that, right? You feel that, but it's also a huge benefit because you can move actually from a no code experience and how you build a data model and how you build a user interface to the pro code experience, right? So you can basically have a collaboration across personas from the professional and the citizen developer together in building applications, which is pretty cool. And we will be bringing much more forward also the notion of low code, no code process automation, combining workflow and RPA much stronger even together, right? And I think that when I talk about this, it's important to understand that this is like, has to do with how do you model the process, how do you model the form. This needs to be, and we are investing in this heavily, that the efforts, how you build workflows, what I mentioned in one of the first slides, right? That this is high, and we take it now from SAP as content. We will continue to do that. But what if we just simply reduce the effort, right? And say, building a simple form needs to be super easy. Clicks, not code. Yeah, and someone says in the industry, which I really like. And the same is true for the process. The same is true like with intelligence. You don't need to be. It's great if you have data scientists in your company. I recently was in a customer call, and I said to the customer, you don't need to have data scientists for this. And the customer said, but I have 30. And I said, okay, hey, good for you. But even they like to use the tool, right? Even a data scientist likes to use a tool that doesn't scream like the data scientist needs to do like a 3-week investigation about the data model. So, what I'm saying is we bring this much closer to the business creators and to the line of business people to build automations, to build workflows, to build rules, and all of that in a kind of environment that is, bringing these things together. In 2 weeks, more about these topics, very exciting announcements that we will make at TechEd. The last topic that I want to highlight is intelligence. I said, workflow intelligence is one thing that has to do with decision support, but it has even more than that. Assisted decisions, but I mentioned there, interactive decision points, you get recommendations and confidence levels, plus explanations, right? The second thing is anomaly detection, in workflows. I mean, forever, I can, in 20 years, one of the most important topics is that within workflows, you can detect fraud, and workflow compliance violations are not something that customers treat like a niche problem, right? And it's not only that, hey, I cannot fool the system and approve my own company car request, which I would love to do, right? I mean, but I'm not allowed to do that. So the workflow, that's easy, right? But there are other, workflow compliance violations that you can detect with anomaly detection on a broader scale of multiple workflows interacting, right? Not even with each other. So suspicious events, hard word for a German, suspicious events and actions, and then cycle time predictions. There are many, many more kind of scenarios that we will take a look at with intelligence. And today, this is just an example what we can do already today, which with our colleagues from machine learning at SAP. There are two very, extremely good business services. One is called document information extraction, and the other is called data attribute recommendation. I think I got this wrong here on the slide. Data attribute recommendation. And, we're shipping now, like I said, workflow intelligence on top, or using data attribute recommendation. You don't even notice that as a customer. Yeah, we just ship it out of the box. So you can use it out of the box. And then we are also shipping document information extraction and classification for bot automation. So think about, classify and route business documents to the right process. Out of the box available. If you build, a workflow and a bot together, these things are just there and you don't need to worry about it, right? Yeah. And these are, I think, the topics that we will highlight in the upcoming, I would say, 4 quarters. And I'm very excited and looking forward also to a lot of feedback that we will get from our community. Take a look at our community for intelligent RPA and workflow management. There will also be a couple of announcements that after TechEd we will be making there about, the future topics. And before you ask, Ceci, because I know you want to ask. I
always ask about TechEd, so yes, please, go ahead.
I was a little bit too fast with the slides. Yeah, I mean, this is a selection of highly recommended sessions. Of course, the session that I really highly recommend is Dev 104 because it's mine. but you see,
everybody also, mark it on their list, please. Add it to agenda.
And I'm talking in Dev 104. I'm talking with together with Sebastian Schrötel about the trend and the reality of hyper automation. So how do you bring actually, how do you bring RPA and workflow together? And we talk about some exciting new announcements that we make there. But develop, configure, and provision application workflows and content. This is really focusing on the content that we talked about today. Sessions about RPA, sessions about intelligence. You find Enterprise AI, Make Your Business Intelligence. This is my boss, Bhagat Nainani, talking with Fei-Yu Chu from machine learning about the importance of embedded intelligence in applications. And all of the other fine sessions about low code, no code, I can highly recommend. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for the overview. I think that's great. I also see there's going to be a mention on channel 1, so that's going to be super interesting to watch. Don't miss that. We do have a question that already came in, and remember, guys, you can just type your questions in the Q&A and we'll try to answer them in the next 10 minutes. So the first question from anonymous attendee, you already kind of covered it in the Signavio slides, but I just want to maybe you can reemphasize it. So the question is there out-of-the-box integration between Signavio and BTP, and how do they work together?
Yeah, I mean, you see that the first steps of out-of-the-box integration is through content, right? That is where you basically say, whether you are, taking a look at your insights dashboards, or you take a look actually even in the process manager and in your business process model in BPMN, and you want to figure out how do I transform this now, and then you take a look at the process mining tool, you will get recommendations, or you're getting recommendations about existing content from SAP, right? Like you've seen that in my demo. The next step is actually what we're working on is together with the colleagues that you can, generate an RPA bot out of, the process insights. So think about it. These tools work like very simply in the sense of you have a sensor in your process. That sensor tells you have a problem, then you can, you get a recommendation for an action, and that action can then be automate this with a bot, and you can create a skeleton for the bot already and then implement this. We have this ready. It's ready, kind of developed. It runs already, but we are going to release it in the next couple of months next year. Then the next step is basically that we will be integrating not only content, fluency, like I kind of survived in the last 15 years with 2 terms in every meeting. I kind of use that: tool flow and content fluency, which means integrate the tools and make the content flow. And you can try that out. You can survive in every meeting and everybody thinks you're smart. So this is like, but the reality is, okay, we want to integrate the tools with each other from Signavio and BTP, but driven by actually the content fluency, in the sense of, okay, you have identified a problem, you can create an RPA bot, you can create a skeleton for a workflow, you import a BPMN model, whatnot. It will always be both sides. Tool flow, consistent user experience is very important for us, and actually the content, and that's what we're actually working on. And then, I mean, how does BTP and this work together? Well, people need to understand, also at SAP, they need to understand that customers don't treat a workflow or an RPA bot just as a quick fix, right? So what does it mean? They treat it as part of the end-to-end process, right? RPA bots and workflows are part of the end-to-end process and not just a quick fix. That means that the end-to-end processes with the improvements run not only on BTP as the application runs on BTP, but also the extension. So part of the process runs on BTP. So we need a joint governance model. That's the most important thing that we will focus on also next year. One of the important topics is governance, right? How do you bring this together to the line of business expert if everybody talks about business transformation, digital transformation, and you don't know because you have 15 platforms you don't govern actually all the shadow IT projects. We want to be different here, right? It needs to be easy, simple, and manageable, what you do in business process intelligence. Yeah.
Right, and that transparency is going to be key to actually survive in the future. I think that's an excellent point. And maybe just on a general note, I think, like you were mentioning, what we're doing across BTP. I mean, you mentioned 2 examples of how we're embedding our AI business services directly into workflow management, for example,
Yes.
like with the data attribute recommendation and document information extraction. So that's another good example of how, I mean, we provide those services independently, right? So you can use them on your own, you can implement them in your own extensions or whatever scenario you're working on. But we've also integrated that into workflow so that it's a lot easier for you to use those capabilities directly when you're working on a workflow extension. And I think that's where we're going with BTP in general. And that's why it's really the business technology platform that includes all the various different capabilities like analytics, like intelligent technologies, like database and data management, and of course, the huge application development integration capabilities that we already offer.
Yes.
So that's, and I think that's also something we're going to highlight at TechEd. So remember, if you haven't registered, go to the TechEd website and register for TechEd and check out the catalog, add items to your agenda, and we'll be excited to see you there. All right, so I think I don't see any other questions. So yeah, we have a few minutes left. If anybody has any other questions, just feel free to type them in the Q&A, and we'll try to get to them. The only other thing I really wanted to highlight, and I really enjoyed in your demo how you showed how easy it was to move from, for example, the API Business Hub into your actual development environment, let's call it, because you know, the API Business Hub is kind of a repository. It has a lot of content. So it has integration packages, it has a live business process content, it has all the events, all the APIs, everything that we offer to our customers, for them to be able to create their own extensions, or for them to be able to integrate their processes and their data. And having that connection, that simple connection between what you need as kind of a data source into the actual working environment of where you're going to change something is something that we're going to continue to improve, I know, but I think that's a huge step that we have that integration already in place.
True. Yeah. As always, you summarize it better than I talk about it. So
I think we make a good team. But yeah, so I think that's it for the session. We just have 2 minutes left. So I just want to leave everybody with just 2 things. First of all, remember to register for TechEd so you can check out all this amazing content, especially Dev 104, which Thomas will be doing. And remember to go to the SAP community, follow the tags, follow the communities that Thomas mentioned. So for SAP Workflow Management, SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation, like you see on the screen. And you can also follow SAP Business Technology Platform and get kind of information on the entire portfolio. All right. So Thomas, thank you very much again for joining us on this session, for giving us all this information. It was super valuable. And yeah, I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Ceci. Bye-bye.
Bye.